2 days ago, I experienced a power failure. I was talking to my friend on the phone and suddenly all the lights went off. I checked the safety fuses, they were all okay. I stepped outside the corridor, I checked the counters, they were all blank, so I figured out that probably the whole house was affected. I came back to my flat and decided to do what every other exemplary citizen would have done in my place. Nothing. But since half an hour later still nothing happened, I decided to call the emergency utility services. The lady who answered the phone said, "Well, you are the only person who reported a failure, so I will have to wait until somebody else calls with the same problem." You know, I really don't like the argument of how is it possible in the 21st century, because I never associated technological progress with moral one. But on the other hand, how is it possible in the 21st century that the testimony of one woman is still worth nothing? Anyways, I called that lady back 20 minutes later and she said they were already doing something about it because somebody else called them with the same problem. So by the time I finished talking to her, I already had my power back. So everything ended well, but that made me think. How often do we sit in the dark? How often do we live a life that is disconnected and we don't complain? Perhaps in the case of this power failure, my neighbors thought that it was only temporary, that somebody was already doing something about it, so they decided to wait. But other than that, I think it's a healthy impulse to report it when something goes wrong. Because it's one thing to accept the dark times that you can do nothing about, and another thing is to sit in the darkness, accept the state of disconnection and think that that's the way it's supposed to be, especially if that's what you've always experienced. This Sunday we are meditating John 3 verses 14 to 21. Just as Moses lifted up the snake in the wilderness, so the Son of Man must be lifted up, that everyone who believes may have eternal life in him. For God so loved the world, that he gave his own one and only Son, that whoever believes in him shall not perish but have eternal life. For God did not send his Son into the world to condemn the world, but to save the world through him. Whoever believes in him is not condemned, but whoever does not believe stands condemned already, because they have not believed in the name of God's one and only Son. This is the verdict. Light has come into the world, but people loved darkness instead of light, because their deeds were evil. Everyone who does evil hates the light and will not come into the light for fear that their deeds will be exposed. But whoever lives by the truth comes into the light so that it may be seen plainly that what they have done has been done in the sight of God. What is a good deed and what is a bad deed? I think we have an idea, more or less, of what it means. And I also think that these ideas are probably similar. But what makes a deed good or bad? Because you've probably met people who did some good things, but in order to feel better about themselves. And you've probably also met people who did some bad stuff, which they didn't really want to do, but perhaps they felt forced to do it, or perhaps there was some kind of strange dependency on another person, a complex situation, something like that. It's not always so simple. But I'm not saying that we shouldn't do something unless we are 100% sure that our intention is pure, because, good luck with that. Or that it doesn't really matter what you do as long as you have good intentions. What I wanted to say is that it's not really that important to track your good deeds in order to feel good about yourself. And similarly, it's not really that important to beat yourself up when you do something wrong. What is important is to stay connected to the light. This will guarantee that your deeds will ultimately be good. Because when you really internalize that idea, not only intellectually, but when it gets into your heart that you are dependent on God and on other people, that we are all interdependent, interconnected, then you will just know what to do. When I feel connected to other people, I will feed somebody who is hungry just because that person is hungry and for no other reason. I won't do it because my religion tells me so. I won't do it to feel better about myself. I will do it because doing something like that is natural for somebody who has that kind of a connection. When I feel connected to God, I want to do things that He would do, Not because I'm afraid of punishment, not because I want to be rewarded, but because there is this connection between us, and the stronger the connection, the more I like doing things that he would like to do. It is a mistake to think that a sin is just a mistake, lack of perfection. You can be imperfect and still have the connection. And you can also do things perfectly and be in the dark. Even doing something wrong can ultimately help you if it helps you realize that you are not self-sufficient, that you cannot do everything on your own. It is when you think that you can create life on your own terms, disregarding the reality, disregarding the interconnectedness between us, alienating yourself, that you are in the dark. Disconnection from the light, disconnection from the truth, disconnection from relationships. That's what throws you into the dark. If you'd like to explore this darkness and see if there is a light at the end of the tunnel, and I can assure you there is, see you on the meditation this Sunday 10 p.m. Central European Time. Bye bye.